Okay, so now that we know that TCP is bi-directional and data can be sent in both directions, and we know that sequence numbers have to start at a random starting point, this means that when we start a TCP connection, the client and the server have to agree on what starting numbers they're using. And here, by client and server, we just mean any two computers. It's just very common that one of them is a client asking for a service, and one of them is a server offering a service. But if you want to change this to Alice and Bob, that's totally fine too. So anyway, the client and the server have to agree on the initial sequence numbers, which were chosen randomly. For example, if we looked at this, somehow the client and the server have to both agree that the server is starting at 25 and counting up, and the client is starting at 50 and counting upwards. To do that, they're going to do a handshake between each other and exchange some packets just to make sure each person knows what the other person is starting with when they're stamping numbers. So first, the client will pick their random starting number. It could be 50, and they'll say, my starting number is 50, and they'll send it over to the server, and we'll describe what all this syntax means later. So for now, we think of the client as picking some number 50, they send it to the server, and this is basically telling the server, I'm the client, and I'm going to start counting at 50, and then my next packet will be 51, and then 52, and so forth. And then the server will say, okay, that's good. Now I'm going to pick a starting number like 25, and my data will be stamped 25, 26, 27, 28, and so forth. So I'll send that number back to you. So the client chose some number X, the server chose some number Y. But remember, this is TCP. We have to guarantee reliability, which means it's not enough to just send a piece of data because you don't know if the other person received it. We always have to send confirmations when we're sending data, and that's no different even in the initial handshake. So in addition to the server saying, I'm going to start at 25, and then 26, and then 27, the server is also going to take this opportunity to say, by the way, when you sent number X, I'm just going to confirm that I did receive number X using this weird syntax that we'll talk about. But this second packet right here, it does two things. It says, I received your initial sequence number, 50, and I'm telling you that I'm going to start at 25. So it takes care of two things. And then finally, the client also has to acknowledge and say, I received your starting number of 25. So this is the three-way handshake. What we've basically done is we've exchanged initial sequence numbers, X and Y, but we have also acknowledged the receipt of numbers X and Y. The server receives X and says, yes, I got it, and the client receives Y and says, yes, I got Y. That's what the three-way handshake is doing. It's confirming receipt and exchanging those initial sequence numbers. And once everything is properly exchanged, now it's time for the client of the server to exchange data.